In the record. And let me quickly share a few slides with you. So, okay. So, welcome to Agile Practitioner online special interest group. My name is Alexander Frumkin. I am an Agile coach and trainer from San Francisco Bay Area. People know me by my nickname, Sasha, and I am an organizer of this user group. We actually started the group back in 2017 when people met face to face. It is a spin-off of BLN, where BLN was face to face, and this group was for lazy people who didn't want to sit in the traffic, who wanted to enjoy meeting like-minded people from all over the world from the comfort of your own home and office. That time it was one of the first virtual user groups. These days it became kind of a standard de facto. The majority of groups are now only remote, so we kind of lost our uniqueness. Anyway, we have almost 1,500 subscribers. We have just a few people shy of being 1,500. That's a big milestone for us. This user group is affiliated with the Scrum Alliance. That means you could claim one Scrum education unit, one SEU, for attending this event and use it towards your certification for the next time. Usually, at this point, I would make an announcement for our next session. At this point, we don't have anybody who is committed, so everybody is welcome. I'm looking specifically maybe at Lena or Olaf. I know Lena is going to become a PhD in May, so maybe she would share some of her research results with the group. Let's wish Lena luck. Or maybe Olaf, you have something to talk about, and everybody is more than welcome. And today I have a special pleasure to welcome to the group a good friend, Ted Wallace. We know each other back from 2017. We were in the same CTC user group that all brought us all together. And the topic of this talk is the neuroscience of success learning from our brain, how to manage complexity. With this said, I am going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to pass the baton to Ted. Please take us away.
Thank you so much, Sasha. It's wonderful to be with you all today and be able to share some of the things I've been working on with my father, as you'll see in one of our slides. So I'll jump right in. And some of my slides will give a little more introduction, but very honored and very happy to be here today. So we click on this and we share. Is everyone seeing, or is it?
You are not in the presentation mode yet.
Uh-huh. Well, it's not really what I was hoping for, to be honest. So we did it last time and it worked perfect. So let's try over time. So I'll put this play from start, but then I have to escape.
Don't worry, Ted. I think in 50 years from now, even when AI are going to be running up presentations, they will have the same issues. They won't get PowerPoint to work.
Good call. Good call. All right, let's see. So if I click, so I'm clicking on the Microsoft PowerPoint, and again, it doesn't seem to.
You would go to that bottom toolbar.
Yeah.
There is like a sign on the toolbar at the bottom.
Yeah, no, I click. Okay, I'll just share my whole. I'll do it this way, and then we'll go from here. Is that
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
You got it.
Excellent, excellent. So the power of neurotransmitters. That's what we'll be talking about today, enhancing your learning and creativity. And this is, how did we get here? So how am I with you presenting on neurotransmitters? And as Sasha mentioned, I've been on this Agile journey, as many of us have been on for quite some time. Really, 2010, I got my CSM and, all the professional and all those things. Then I tried to get the CTC, and that took quite some time for me. It took a couple years and numerous failures, for which Sasha was there and picked me up afterwards and dusted me off and said, yes, yes, keep going. So that was between like 216 and 219 or 220. But along that journey, so along my Agile journey and also my quest to get a CTC, I realized like one of the hardest things is to take people from the environment that they're in and to change their habits, right? That's a lot of what we do as coaches, is help people learn new habits. And with agility in software development, if we're talking about that, we got them from going from this sort of waterfall system to sprints or Kanban or whatever framework or tools we were using at the time. But the developers and the people working within the system had to change the way their brain worked. And so I have a master's in computer science, but I also have a master's in neuroscience. And that's another life that I did. I traveled with my dad and did a lot of research. And so, into this career, a couple of years, I turned to my dad. I said, wow, it's really hard to get people to change their habits, to get organizations to change their habits. And I said, you're a top neuroscience guy and you've done all this research on meditation. You want to help me? And so we spent a number of years then at that point, and Sasha had to watch many presentations of total brain coaching. That was the kind of first book that I presented in one of the Austin back in 2018, 2019. And then we published this book on total brain coaching. And this is a book for coaches around habit change. And I really like the Phoenix Project. And I use it when I tried to do DevOps transformations. I would always get my leadership groups to read that. And I love this idea of a story that takes all the principles and weaves them in. And so that's how we created the coherence code. So total brain coaching was more the kind of how-to and many of the principles, and the coherence code was a storybook. And then we ended up teaching courses after that at universities, and people liked it, but they wanted something that wasn't just for coaches. They wanted something that was more for individuals. And that's where Self-Empower came along. We did the same trick, where we wrote a storybook along with it. That was Trouble in Paradise. And then we started to, my father runs the integrative medicine department at a university. And so we built courses. And now we have a couple other books that came out, most recently, Super Habits for Success and Igniting Your Liquid Intelligence. So this is kind of the evolution of how we got here. And the brain is this amazing thing, which allows people to build software and build AI and do amazing things. So we can learn from it, not only by learning how to train it, it's neuroplasticity, which we'll talk about, but also by examining it and seeing how does it manage such the amazing amount of complexity that it manages. And today we're really focusing on this Igniting Liquid Intelligence. This is the most recent book that we've published, and it's about optimizing your brain chemistry. Now, really, the brain is amazing. It's like the number of neurons is 86 billion neurons, which connects to thousands of other neurons. So you're talking about over 100 trillion connection between neurons. It's just mind-blowing what is just here in our heads. This is the real power of our human physiology. And it's not just this, right? It's connected to the gut-brain axis. It's this phenomenal thing that has unimaginable complexity. And the connections are amazing. It's also its ability to learn, so to reprogram itself, which we'll talk a little bit about. And just from an efficiency standpoint, it does things that we haven't even imagined yet in terms of computers. just a tiny slice of complexity. If you looked at an org chart and saw this, you'd run away, right? You'd be like, this is ridiculous. This is just the tiniest habit that we have. And this is what's involved in that for the whole body. And I'm doing this not so that we understand what's in here, but just to kind of give an idea of how much complexity we're thinking about. And really the way that the brain, one of the main ways, and you can throw this into ChatGPT like we all do now, or Perplexity or Deep Seek or whatever we do. But one of the main ways is balance. So creating balance or homeostasis within the brain is a super important way. We can function in fight or flight, but where we can really handle complexity is when our brain relaxes and we can actually think. And you don't have to, this is a very busy slide, I apologize, but just some of the key points: having this homeostatic plasticity, maintaining neural stability. So this is like how we regulate our excitability. A lot of times we self-regulate, right? We do that to ourselves, wake ourselves up with caffeine, come down with a little nightcap. We play that role sometimes, but our brain's doing it at such a more intense level throughout the whole physiology. There's a thing called allostasis, so this predictive regulation for efficiency. So it's maintaining, it's understanding the whole. Like when we think of systems thinking, this is the ultimate in systems thinking. Also, this hemispheric integration, balancing specialized functions, and network dynamics, balancing segregation and integration. And these things might, like when I look at these, I go, oh yeah, on some of the organizations that I work at. So I coach at Principal Financial Group, which is a 250, it's 20,000 people. I think it's super complex and it's super hard to get anything done in it, but we're making some progress. But when I look at this, well, one, I look at these type of principles and I understand that those also apply to organizations. And then I'm in awe of my own brain for being able to handle all of this. So if we simplify all of this, one of the main strategies in terms of balancing your own physiology and being able to handle complexity within your own body is to balance your neurotransmitters. And it's really being aware of who you are and who's in control of your brain. My dad says this, but you have all these chemicals in there that are doing things all the time. And we kind of have, you have thoughts and you have awareness and you have different types of awareness at different times. So we have maybe a pain, one pain of it all comes together, but there's infinity happening beneath all of that. And again, neuroplasticity, this is your brain's ability to rewire itself. So up to 25, your brain's doing what's on the screen. I know that can be a little offsetting, I apologize. But like that's what's happening all the time. After 25, your brain kind of, generally, your brain decides like, oh, well, I'm only going to change if I feel like I really need to change, right? So it takes a certain balance of chemicals to really get growth, which is why, as we get older, sometimes we feel like, oh, it's harder to learn. It's not really harder to learn, but you have to set the situation up. You have to set the environment up so that your brain says, oh, I need to do this. I'm going to prioritize it over saving energy. And so I'm going to build those pathways in my brain that I need to. And again, neurons that fire together, wire together. So like this group, we're all coming together. So then we get more wired. And it's the same in the brain, social networks and what happens in the brain, there are some similarities. So the reason why this repetition, when we're building habits or we're balancing the neurotransmitters, this is an important principle to remember. And again, we talked about experience changes the brain. So between the ages of 0 to 25, you can change a neural circuit in a few days. After 25, as I mentioned, it takes that right combination of chemicals in a period of time to promote changes in the neural circuits. And again, as I mentioned before, I think of neural circuits when it comes to either habit change or thinking about the complexity of the brain, it's like all these highways in the brain. And when we want to, say, build a new habit, then we're building like a new highway in the brain, and we have to reinforce that pattern again and again. So we're talking about you probably heard dopamine. That's a pretty common buzzword these days. The fact that Google and YouTube have taken generational dopamine stores away. Obviously, in the Valley or in the San Francisco area, there's a lot of companies that have tapped into the brain's dopamine stores and done well with that. But dopamine is really this reward system, and it's the basis of healthy motivation as well as unhealthy addictions. So we think of here and now transmitters. So dopamine is looking into the future a little bit more. So when you're in a dopamine state, it's like you're almost anticipating the next leveling up in the next video game or in the whatever sport you're doing or whatever activity you're doing. You're almost anticipating that, and that's what's giving you that little bit of bump. And there's two ways of looking at dopamine, one as the chemical itself and also the circuits around dopamine. There are other neurotransmitters, lots of other neurotransmitters. They're much more about the here and now. They're like serotonin is a mood stabilizer. Endorphins are painkillers. If you're a runner, you're going to have a lot of endorphins. Oxytocin is this love chemical. It's bonding. Adrenaline is the thing that gets us alert. Acetylcholine is the thing that allows us to focus. These are very general statements around these neurotransmitters, but it gives you a sense. So we're talking about dopamine in one category of more future looking, and we're talking about these other neurotransmitters as more neurotransmitters of the here and now. So dopamine is the great motivator. So the whole 21st century and Western world is built on a lot of dopamine, probably. And so you have these desire circuit or control circuit. The desire circuit is tuned in when you anticipate something that will make you happy. And this circuit is located at the core of the brain, essential for survival, been hijacked by addictive drugs, by video games, as well as social media. So those are all things that have tapped into this very primal thing that has taken humankind through many thousands of years. There's also the control circuit, and the control circuit takes us beyond excitement and motivation. It allows us to evaluate options, select tools, plot strategies to get what we want. And it extends from the core of the brain to the higher centers in the prefrontal cortex. Now, when we overuse dopamine, we get burnt out. And this is something that, we've seen, I've experienced myself. I've seen lots of other people. So dopamine, you can, always be on the go, always go for it, always reach for the stars, but you need to balance. Otherwise, at a certain point, you burn out. That the body will figure out how to balance itself, right? So if you overextend too much, then the body deregulates dopamine and you lose it, and you can go through. So I have friends who run, and one of my friends just finished an ultra marathon, and he is probably he's not much fun to be around right now, right? Because he used all of his dopamine to make it to this 100, and now he's kind of in that recovery phase. So the reason why we're bringing all these things up is these are keys for us to, one, help the people that we're working with figure out how to get them in a state where they can learn and be in the most balanced place. And two, for us, we can be the best agile coaches or scrum masters or whatever thing we're doing these days if we can balance these different neurotransmitters. And one of the ways that my dad and I think about this is each person is different. I mean, science thinks about it. Each person has different DNA, they have different early environment, different set of experiences. And my father and I, if you've read any of our books or seen any of our other presentations, we have worked with a system that comes out of India. It's sort of ancient medicine, and they do body typing. And we, over the last 10, 15 years, have seen that it's been quite accurate. And so we could have chosen Colby, we could have chosen many different types of systems, Briggs Myers, all that stuff. But we found that this system is tied to people's physical bodies as well as personalities. And so that's what the system of sort of classification of different people, because everybody's different, right? And that's so when you want to balance your neurotransmitters, there's not a one magic bullet that solves that problem. You have to kind of personalize it, and then you have to experiment. And we'll talk about that. So I think this is the part. Yeah, so this is a part where we're going to ask you to fill out a quiz to figure out what your energy state is. And there's three different ones. There's the V energy state, P energy state, and K energy state. And I'd love you with a pencil and paper. Probably nobody's, I hope this isn't too, but if you can, like what needs to happen in the next couple minutes is everybody looks at this, says, oh, I'm a light sleeper, I have difficulty falling asleep. Is that true? If it's really true, then you'd mark a 4 or a 5 for it. If it's not very true, then you'd put a 1 or a 2 for it. And we'd answer each of these 8 questions, and that'll give you a score, obviously, from 8 to 40. And you're going to do the same thing for the P energy. I'm going to throw that up there. And then the K energy. And then we're going to go through what that means. So if you're dominantly a V energy type, a P energy type, or a K energy type, and that's going to tie back to your neurotransmitters, right? So that's where this plays in. These different body types play into which neurotransmitter you're mainly associated with. So I'm going to give a few minutes. I would love can people put the thumbs up when they've got this worked out? And I'm going to look at the chat too. Oh, good. So somebody's finished it out. Great. We're going to have 3 of these scores. And basically, whether you're a V, if you're highest in a V energy, then that's the predominant one. Obviously, everyone is going to have all 3 of these energy states, but we're just trying to figure out which one is most dominant. That's the goal of this exercise right now. So either a thumbs up, or people can tell me when I can go to the next one, and you can add up the next one. Or you can drop it into the chat as Maru's. Yep, good. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm seeing the chat. I see 2 people have done it. We have 14 people. So once we get to about 9 or 10 yep, I'm seeing 3. Then I'll click to the next slide and we'll do it again. 4. Hmm. 5. Good, good. All right. Okay. Lena might not be able to. Lena's out about, so but might have gotten so I've gotten a few more. That's great. We're getting close to the place where I'm going to change it to the P energy type. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. I think I'm going to jump now to the next one. So if that's okay. All right. So now we're on to the next one. So this is the P energy state. And to give you a little balance, V energy is in the traditional system of Ayurveda, which is the system of medicine from India that survived 5,000 years. V is associated with space and air. This P energy is more fire and a little bit of the viscosity of water. And then the K energy is more water and earth. So just to kind of give you a broad sense of. And there are epigenetic studies, scientific studies that have been published that tie these different body types, these qualities that you're looking at, that you're marking yourself on right now, and genetic dispositions and genetic pieces. Okay, good. Got somebody. Yep. Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Exactly. That is what it's based on. All right. Now at the end, when we get all 3 scores, I'm hoping you'll put all 3 scores because that'll tell us like, oh, are you a V type, a P, are you a Vata, a Pitta, or Kapha, a V type, P type, or K type? Good. Gotten a few more. Looks like 3 or 4. Give a couple more minutes. All right, we've already got comments in the chat. I like it. I like it. That's fun. All right. Are we pretty good, we think? Anybody need more time? I'm seeing some thumbs. That means I'm hoping that means we're good. All right, we're going to switch to the next one, which is the K type. All right. And then after you finish this, if you can put all 3 scores in, so the V, the P, and the K type, the different scores, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, that would be amazing. And then we can kind of, that'll give us an idea of what neurotransmitters are kind of are more the ones we're operating in right now, and also what our mind body type are. Okay, good. Yeah. So I think Maru, if you can put all 3 scores with that would be great. Then we'll get a sense of like which one's more dominant. And they can be close. So if they're close, that's also, we're made up of all of these elements. It's just which ones are a little bit more dominant. And there are good thing, there are benefits to all. So there's not one that's better than the other. It's just when you're dealing with habit change or you're dealing with balancing your physiology so that you can have optimum kind of performance, then that's okay, good. So that's Doug.
Ted, what was the letter for the first score? Second is
Oh,
P, last is K.
yeah, VP and K.
V. Oh,
So Doug seems more like P predominant, although K is there. Uh, uh, Lena is also this almost similar in terms of the proportion. Looks like this P energy type fire and earth are quite strong. Olaf, do you have all 3 for that one? Then we'll know. Oh, are you saying K is the most dominant, is what you're saying? That's why you put it there at 26? Is that right?
No, I did in order VP and K.
Oh, and you did it. Oh, maybe it's farther down. I'm just not seeing it. Oh, yeah, there you are. Sorry. Yeah. Also P and K very close. It's fun. I mean, this group has Farah has quite some P energy, so like I would want to make sure that you're always eating on time because that's that fire element. So that's a good thing. Good. And then Maru is okay, K type, but K and V are so close. So that's quite powerful. Elena, oh, so they're all close. So you can be all three. That was usually my scores are pretty close together. It means that when we go to the next slide and we kind of look at the qualities, you'll have to use your intuition a little bit because you can have all three things at any one time. Hangry is
So
yes, fair. Angry is real. That is a very good comment. Probably the most valuable advice I've given as an Agile coach, and I'll talk about that in a minute, comes from this. So good. So everyone has a sense now of, again, some of these scores are super close. So it's not going to be, some of them are quite clear. Some of them are like, oh, you're predominantly this P energy type or K or V. And lots of them are quite close and have two. So when we look at the different pieces of it, then we'll see what makes up each of us. So this dopamine desire circuit, my dad, who's the neuroscientist, has connected it to this Vata or V energy. And really V types are these, when they're balanced, they're creative and enjoy new ideas. So V types are the creative, usually marketing, they're changing, they love change all the time. It's a very kind of frenetic pace in life. When they're in balance, so meaning the neurotransmitters or the energies are imbalanced, then the attention changes quickly and very impulsive, can't focus on anything, jumping from one thing to the next. That would be when it's imbalanced. And the suggestions for balancing. So the reason why we like this Ayurveda from India, which we call kind of mind-body types, is because your mind and your body are connected, right? And as someone brought up, like hangry is real, right? There are people there who they're missing their meal and they're starting to get angry and angrier. You could tell them, hey, chill out, it's going to be okay, don't worry. Or you can give them something to eat, right? And you give them something to eat and they instantly calm down, right? If you tell them to chill out, that may or may not help them at that moment. Most times it doesn't, right? So there is this very strong mind-body connection. So if you're a V type, and that means that dopamine piece, the dopamine desire circuit, that's one of the big ones. It's really important that you nurture and enjoy the creative energy by finding ways to engage your creativity in the learning process. You want to create routines that help you focus. And I think I have a spelling error there. Sorry about that. To help you focus. And you want to get adequate amounts of sleep. These are really important. Okay, so that's a good call. Then, and what was your Maru, what was your energy type? Dominantly, it looks like you had all three.
yeah, they were pretty balanced. P was very low.
Yeah, so for you, that hangry thing is not such a big deal, right? For you, you need grounding when you're in that angry state. So different types need different things to balance them out. So one thing that works for one person doesn't always work for the other person, as we find out very much as we move through life. So good call out there. So the next one we'll talk about is the dopamine control circuit, and that's for this P energy type. They're very balanced, goal-oriented, and high achievers. And when they get, yes, yeah, right. Farah's telling us, I don't get angry when I don't crave food. I get angry when I don't get food, right? So you need the food to balance it out. It's a good point. Excellent point. So if you're imbalanced, you can get irritable, angry, or controlling. And the way to balance this neurotransmitter for this type, celebrate your mistakes as they're valuable learning tools, because P types can be very much perfectionist. So you have to kind of perfection, what do they say about perfection? It might be sometimes an obstacle to progress or something like that. So if you have too much of this or that dopamine desire circuit, then you have to be able to celebrate mistakes as they're valuable learning tools. Eat on time, avoid being hangry, stay hydrated and cool, don't burn out. Those are super important for that type. Probably I did a gig at a small company, well, small, about 40, 50 people, about 2, 3 years ago. And I was working with the CEO and the leadership people. And it was very clear to me, we did the score thing also. And the leader was a heavy P type, right? Kind of, oh, we have to do this, very energetic. And so I told all the staff, I said, whatever you do, do not schedule meetings right before lunch, right? Just don't do that. Like, make sure the CEO gets his food on time and don't schedule anything like a half an hour before. And that, when 2 years later, when I left the engagement, they said, you did some great things, but that was the most important thing, piece of anything that gave us, because that saved so much time and energy at that company. So the here and now transmitters, this is the K type, the earth type more. Balanced, steady, reliable, and kind. But when they're imbalanced, can be resist change and stubborn, right? So K types, they like stability. And so if you're building a new habit, it takes them, they have to break things down into small, small pieces and do it again and again until it becomes the habit. And then they're very good at maintaining that. And suggestions for K types to balance their energy with the here and now transmitters: exercise in the morning and in the afternoon, but getting up in the morning, getting some exercise in, getting those first rays of the sun, those are ways to stimulate K and get them moving. Eat lighter meals and make sure you engage with others. If you're trying to build a habit of walking, make sure you're walking with somebody else. All right, so those, I hope that was somewhat interesting. You have to experiment with all of this, right? It's super important, because you take some score, you find out a little bit about neurotransmitters, but the most important thing is like, oh, okay, let's make sure I get, like I'm going to experiment with sleep, or I'm going to experiment with diet, or I'm going to experiment with exercise. Once you know your kind of personalized body type or what neurotransmitter group you're kind of more dominated by, then you can kind of make better plans. And again, we talk about, these are the things for individuals to experiment with, right? Meditation is a good one. And the reason why meditation is up there is because in the world that we live in today, there's so much complication. There's so many things that are changing all the time. People are in such a stressed place that the mind is usually in fight or flight or freeze all day for many people. Like, it's a very tough place. And so you have to find things that allow your mind to relax so that you can use your full brain potential. Because when you're in this fight or flight or freeze state, you're getting stuff done and you're negotiating through things and you're doing the things you absolutely have to do, but you're not using your full brain potential. And so when you're trying to solve complex problems for companies, or you're trying to get teams to change their habits, or you're trying to get organizations to work differently, you can't just, it's not a cookie cutter type of thing. You have to figure out the context of each piece of this. You have to apply all these great tools that you have. You have to apply the right tool at the right time in the right way, right? It's a lot of, and so you need your full brain potential. You need your neurotransmitters balanced to do that type of work. Meditation is a good, go ahead.
A short question. What's behavioral codes? What is it? What's
Behavioral codes are just things like, be kind to your neighbor, enjoy gratitude. There are different ways of behaving that have shown. So the guy who does Tiny Habits, he's at Stanford. He's the guy who wrote Tiny Habits book. He has a thing called the Maui habit, which is like a behavioral code. So he wakes up every morning, he touches his feet to the earth, and he's just incredibly grateful that he's on earth. Now he lives in Maui in this beautiful house. So that might have that's where environment, plays a piece in it. But that would be something like a behavioral code, right? Where behavior has an effect upon your physiology. Did that Make sense? Or
Yeah, totally. I think I understand it. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I thought you were
no,
past
no, that's fine. That's
the slide
perfect.
points.
Yeah, good call. Good call. Exercise, sleep, and sunlight. Um, Another guy at Stanford, Huberman, he's a big, huge fan of getting those morning rays of sunlight. He's also, it's very easy to tell. He's probably a PK type. Once you start doing this a lot, you can tell kind of. And so for PK types, which actually many of you are, that early morning light is super good, super nourishing. So we talked about this. Sunlight resets the circadian rhythms, synchronizes the biological clock in the DNA. And then there's some cells with the supra chiasmatic nuclei in the brain. And I don't think I even said that right. Sorry. The exercise. So again, number one risk factor for cardiovascular disease is lack of exercise. So exercise is good for all the different body types. Turns out the V types, they can do a little less. They don't have to go as hard. P types, make sure you don't overexert. And then K types, make sure you do exercise as much as you can, like in the morning. It doesn't have to be for long periods, but these are the ones, the more you move, the more it's better for your physiology. Sleep. So again, it's critical for everyone. It's critical for clearing toxins that build up in the brain during the day. And obviously, numerous studies have correlated lack of sleep with poor mental performance and health problems. The V types need a little bit less. P types, make sure it's regular for both VP and K types. Usually they say if you can get to bed earlier, that has some benefits, but the main thing is regularity. Some people are night owls, hard to, change that. That takes a lot of time and energy to change. But the main thing is make sure you're getting at least, 7 hours, not more than 9 usually, between that 7 and 9, and that it's more regular. Everyone's different, so these are very general statements, right? Diet and digestion, that's just a huge universe of things. I'll go back. In terms of food types, there's a whole world in this, and you can go online and you can talk to ChatGPT. You can put in what your type is, and then you can ask it for meal recommendations, and it will give it to you. Like we live in an amazing world right now. I'll tell a story afterwards because we should get through the presentation. We're almost done, actually. So meditation and yoga, again, rewires the brain for maximum performance, creates better mental and physical health. So these are all protocols that you can experiment with to balance your neurotransmitters now that you know what your mind-body type is and what neurotransmitters are a little bit more predominant in your reality. And again, mindset's super important. Also, no such thing as failure. If you don't succeed, then keep experimenting and adjusting. This is around mindset too, in terms of figuring out what's going to work for you. You can always learn from your mistakes and create a better plan. Obviously, in this group, we understand that growth mindset is super important, especially in dealing with complexity, right? And the brain would has a growth mindset. Now, after 25, it ratchets it down a little bit, but it still grows all the time. Now, we won't do this quiz, but this is kind of, you can look at these questions. This is a neuroadaptability quiz, right? And you would rate yourself 1 to 5 on each of these. And the purpose of this is to kind of, when you know what your mind body type is, and you do lots of experiments, this is like a baseline. You can see what your neuroadaptability as a term is something where you respond to stress, but then you're able to get back to that full brain functioning as quickly as possible. So we all have to respond to stress. That's how we live. That's how we make it through all of our challenges. But neuroadaptability is that ability for your brain then to recover and get back to more of its full potential, not in that fight or flight mode, and then function until the next stressful thing comes along, and then you have to respond again, of course. So it's not that we don't respond to stress, but that we can respond to stress and then come back to baseline as quickly. So this type of quiz gives you some idea of like, oh, so you already did the quiz? That's impressive. Must be V-type. Were you V-type? Those are the ones who go really quickly.
No, but I have ADHD. If I don't do something like that, I'm gonna go crazy. So don't worry.
Okay.
It's just
Well, we don't want that. So I will leave this up for a minute. We're right at the end of it, and I appreciate everybody's attention and time very much. It's really fun to share this stuff. I've shared this presentation 4 or 5 times now, but it's just fun to do it. Does anyone else want me to leave this up, or can you take a screenshot of it if you want to? The real purpose of this is not to compare yourself, as we know with many things in Agile, you don't compare across people. It's a self-evaluation tool. The idea of it is you see what your scores are now, you run some experiments, and then you see your scores increase. And so that's kind of the value of this. I'm going to jump to the next slide, though, if that's okay. Okay. Oops, and I went backwards instead of forwards. That's not good. All right, the last piece of it we talked, or there's a few more pieces, but this is we're right at the end here. So 4 levels of assessment and coaching, right? So when we talked about neuroplasticity, I just wanted to, this is the part where we say be real. So we had the 4 different ways of balancing your neurotransmitters is understanding your personalizing, then experimenting, and then being real. Those were, and by being real, I mean actually measuring things and then using these type of assessments or sorry, these type of levels of repetition to then change the way that your brain operates, right? So when you want to change your habits, it's super important to do repetition of things. You can do it at a personal level, which is this personalized assessment. So like, if I have my phone, yeah, so my phone's not on, I've turned it off, which is good. But usually you'd see a screen of something I'm trying to work on right now. Or this can give me a timer so this is like a personalized way of reminding me. You can also have a coach or accountability partner. So like if you're having coaching, I have an Agile coach that works with me so that I get better. They're also ORSC and all those different and coactive and things. There's also this group coaching phenomenon where like we're in a group now and we're helping each other learn about our neuroplasticity, our neuroadaptability. We're coming together. There's a group consciousness that's here within this group that's promoting learning in our lives. And then there's environmental coaching, which is like if you want to if you want to get let's say a simple one, if you wanted to lose weight and stop snacking, then you remove the snacks out of the house. So you change the environment to promote the behavior or activity that you want. If you use all 4 of these levels to build habits or to experiment with different pieces of the puzzle around your neurotransmitters, that's how you actually change things. And when you have a balanced brain, you have creativity, adaptability, and intuition. When you're not balanced, there can be cognitive biases, depression, anxiety, burnout. I mean, these are like obvious things. There's a million other things, but we just kind of, the idea of why we want a balanced brain is because it gives us the best aspect of ourselves. Now, there's one other slide where talk about Cynefin and how the brain functions in different parts of Cynefin. How this group probably knows Cynefin and seen it a bunch of times, this model. Yep. So the good thing, then I won't go into that, which is great. What I will say is where you want the most balance is when you're dealing with complexity, right? That's when your brain has to be relaxed and focused, that delicate hold. Complicated, obviously, you can get a list of instructions, you can plow through them. Clear, same kind of thing. Chaotic, you could argue that that's also a place where leaders, they have to act, sense, and respond, but it usually is very much fight or flight type. So the reason why balancing your neurotransmitters and keeping your mind body types balanced as possible is if we're doing complex work, that's where you see the greatest benefit of it. Anyway, that's kind of a thought. So thank you for the time, for the experience. That was a lot of fun, actually. And I will stop sharing.
Folks, the floor is open if you have questions. Ted, would you like people to just pop up, or you want to?
Yeah, people talk. Perfect. It's a small, wonderful group. So yes, but it'd be fun to hear anyone.
Um, I have a couple. I want to get it on my mind. By the way, Ted, I have both your first books, but
Cool.
I think I even sent you an email when I finally got the second one,
Oh, you
and
did? Yeah, I saw that.
and
That's
you
right.
replied.
And
I
so,
wanted to know.
are you in Canada? Is that the reason we had a hard time? Or are
No,
you
no, I'm in
there?
Europe.
Oh, you're in Europe. Okay, yeah, that was it. Yeah, good.
I wanted to, there's two questions in a summary. So VPK, P was Ayurveda, so that was energy. K was
Oh, no, V is Vata, P is
but
Pitta, and K is Kapha. So those are the Ayurvedic names for it. We shorten that to V, P, and K. And again,
uh,
V type is space and air. P type is fire and the kind of flexibility of water. And then the K type is water and earth.
water. Okay, let's yeah. So I have a question about one of the transitions of the slides. I don't know if you have the
Oh
possibility
yeah,
to share them again.
sure I
Uh,
can. Oh, yeah. But which
um,
one?
Feel free to send me the slides.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll share send the link to the meetup group.
Okay.
the, the so my question was I think it was the slide right after you yeah right before you started talking about meditation and and food and stuff like that.
Okay. So
Um,
we went through
uh,
the V types. We had
uh,
uh,
Yes, we you had gone through them and then you started showing what each type can do or should look at. And I remember
let me see. I'll
uh,
share
uh
this again. See if this works. Is this slide or
yeah, the one it was just before.
okay?
Just before we got to this part. Or right, one more. So suggestion for Kappa K energy, yes. Yes. I wanted to know. So you said this is all Ayurveda, Kappa was air and earth,
Uh,
and
Kapha
the
is earth and water.
oh, sorry, earth and water.
Yeah.
Water. And but this sounds like this struck me as something that everybody should do. I mean, I don't
It's
know. Is it
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, it's a good call. I mean, all types could, but specifically for these K types, they have a hard time. They procrastinate more than any of the other types, right? So
yeah,
engaging with others, so going for a walk with somebody else is a really good way to get motivated. Eating lighter meals is a way to keep that heaviness from getting into your day. Making sure you exercise first thing in the morning and in the afternoon is a way to keep that motion going. So you don't slow down and get to the place where you just don't want to move or you don't want to do much. So when a K type is imbalanced, it's that couch potato kind of thing, or they just sit around. They can get depressed. They can get very stubborn. Um,
yeah.
so
It's
that,
really
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah.
So that what? Um,
So that's why these suggestions, and again, remember K types are associated with the here and now neurotransmitters. So they can be in the moment pretty well, but getting motivated to do the next thing is not always the easiest thing for them, right?
yeah, yeah. It sounds very accurate, very inflexible, indeed. Yeah, but because I'm struck by how accurate this is, and I'm surprised about the in the afternoon. Um, does it? relate to food intake? Like if somebody's fasting, for example, does that, or is that in general thing, morning and afternoon movement, exercise?
It helps that earth and water element part of them. It helps those here and now transmitters. It gets movement happening so that there's a little bit more of the dopamine circuit gets utilized at that point. It's also just motion helps. Like it helps that mind body type very much. And being with other people helps quite a bit.
Yeah, that's why I said it's really super accurate. Well, thank you
Okay,
very much. I'm gonna stop
sure,
here.
sure.
Gonna start talking to ChatGPT now about this.
Yeah, yeah. Good. Olaf, please.
Yeah, it struck me that there are three like types, and I wonder if there's any kind of way that one could map these three things onto like something like the Enneagram, which has nine total
Yeah,
types.
yeah. Yes,
Like if you're high in something, then
right,
and low in two others, that maps to a certain type.
right.
Anyway,
That,
I don't know
that
if
I
anybody
mean,
has looked at that.
that might be another chat GPT type or project. I'm honestly, it can do those things quickly, or it could be one that we spend some time and really enjoy doing that because
Well,
it's always beautiful to put your attention on both of those things and find the connections
you
between
might have a research question there.
them.
Anyway, and the other question or maybe thought I had was, you talked a lot about, activation states, fight, flight, freeze, appease, and fawn, maybe. Um, that also gets talked about in polyvagal theory. Is there a link between these things for you?
Yeah, there is. I mean, honestly, they're all like connected. I mean, that like, but in terms of finding the subtle connections between them, I have not spent a huge amount of time in that. But polyvagal is definitely, there are things that, so that is that fight or flight. That's how you get into that relaxed state. Meditation and a lot of the research in meditation and polyvagal, there's some nice similarities between those two things. It's how do you get into that relaxed state? How do you get your mind from that fight, flight, or freeze to okay, it's okay, and I can start to think on a different level. But yeah, excellent point. Go ahead, Lena. Yay.
Oh yeah, Ted, I wanted to ask you, what would you do if you're in the state of burnout, like you're working, 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 there's no time for anything? What to do in
So
that?
you need to figure out so which one of those energy types you are,
Okay.
and then what things you can do to your body to start to balance out this dopamine burnout that you've done. Obviously, rest is a key aspect, but a lot of times we're not in the position where we can do that. So we have to do small changes to our routine to kind of move us in the right direction. So it's lots of little changes, getting a little bit of extra rest, making sure we take, depending if we're a V type, then it would be making sure we're a little more structured in our life, making sure we have more stability going on there. For a P type, making sure we don't get overheated all the time, making sure we're eating on time. If it's a K type, making sure we're walking, we're doing that exercise morning and afternoon, we're in social environments that are motivating for us. It's building those habits that can then move us out of this sort of heavy dopamine crash. Now, you will come out of it at some point, your dopamine will build back up. The problem is when you ride that roller coaster up and down, it's not usually that much fun, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's a pretty hairy ride.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Go ahead, Lena. Sorry.
Hey,
Yeah.
awesome conversation. Thanks for offering it. I'm curious, when you present this as it's not the typical,
Yeah.
here's your goals and KPIs and the ROI, and here's the payoff, that the leaders will be like sitting on the edge if you're lucky. But how do they respond to this?
So
Like,
yeah, that is a great question. So Dad and I actually many of us here have a common friend, Matt, who's in Omaha, and he had me and my dad be the lead speaker at a PMI conference, and we gave this talk, right? So imagine being in Nebraska, in Omaha, with a bunch of now PMI, interestingly, there's been a lot of work done. I don't know if you've seen the PMBOK 7, Knevin's in there. There's a lot of cool stuff that's in there. So that whole world has opened up, and now they have some alliance with Agile Alliance, which I'm a fan of Agile Alliance, so that's always good. And a mutual friend who since passed, Pat Reed, spent a lot of time working with them to kind of bring that up to speed. So we gave this talk, and the organizers, they were kind of looking, and you could tell they were like, "Wait, what? Like, what's going on here?" Like, and then as we gave the talk, maybe 10 to 15% of the people, there was about 80 people, maybe 100 people in that room, got some like I'd say 10 to 15% were like, yeah, this is something cool. I think I know what this is, and this feels like it's. There was another like 40, 50%. They're like, what are they doing? What are they talking? Then there was another part. There's like, am I in the right conference? Like, what's going on here? So that was kind of, you come off like lead speaking, and my dad's on a big screen there, and it was pretty intense, And luckily, another mutual friend of ours, Tim gave the next talk, and it blended into our talk perfectly. And the whole conference actually kept building upon the knowledge that we had given in the beginning. And people thought that we had somehow engineered it. So by the end of it, everybody was super happy with the talk, and the organizers, gave me a hug and all that kind of stuff. So that was, I felt like, he didn't break me in half. So it was okay. It was good. Yeah. So I don't know if I'd ever get invited back there, to be perfectly honest, but like it was really fun, and Matt was happy with the results. So that's how this talk goes over at a PMI conference in Omaha, Nebraska, with 100 people.
Nice.
You know
You
what
live
this
to
would
tell
be.
the story.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
Go ahead,
what
please.
this would. You know what this would be amazing for people doing financial trading. The the kind of stress they work in. I
Yep.
mean, I think you got a niche there. You should talk to them. So that's
Yeah.
one.
So I've worked in the financial industry now for like, I don't know, 15, 20 years. And I did my Series 7 and 21, 24, all that stuff. Um, yeah, it's tough. Like a lot of those people are so stressed that they can't really. So that's the problem when you're so stressed that you can't open your mind up to something like this, right? And I've seen that. So I have given smaller versions of this talk to asset managers, to actuaries, because I work at Principal Financial. So there's like
Actually,
there and all that stuff. So I do give
it,
it, and people get pieces of it, but a lot of times there's not much that can get through.
yeah,
Do
yeah.
you do
There's
this
no.
talk?
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, do you do this talk at Principal?
I have given pieces of it, right? Like
Oh,
not like the full breadth of what you guys took, like that was a pretty, that's a lot there. It's a lot of new knowledge and a lot of interesting things. But it felt really good to be with this group and be able to give this talk. So I really appreciate that.
That's, you said something about PMP earlier, and it's interesting. I was thinking about the same thing earlier. We had a systems problem solving workshop this week, and we were discussing the fact that it was a strategy problem, and we were discussing the fact that we needed to zoom out from this enterprise system into the human system
Right.
of per individual. It was some manager to employee problems and then leadership to management problems, etc. And here in PMP, I'm thinking they should add a new chapter with this kind of stuff because managing this is also part of managing any program, any transformation, any project. It has a
Absolutely.
direct impact.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're not balanced in your neurotransmitters and you're in fight or flight, there's no real chance for you to transform, right? Just not going to happen. And not because nobody can force your brain to do that. So um, your brain has to be relaxed. It has to feel somewhat safe. It has to understand why it's doing it, and it has to do it in smaller chunks so that it doesn't. Because once healthy stress can get you to do something, but once you're overwhelmed, it's game over, right? Then you're just pretending. People are smiling. They're saying yes, 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 but they're not doing anything, right? Their brains aren't doing anything, at least. Their brains are just like have their defenses up and protecting it because they're overwhelmed.
So
Oh,
here's a question for the table if people are interested. Clearly, the human performance and the human well-being is invested for the human because it's their body, but it's also invested for the company. But with the context, then who owns employee well-being?
hmm.
I'll just throw it out there if people want to chew on it.
I mean, ultimately you do, right? You yourself own your own well-being. Companies will, depending on what sort of mindset they come from, support you in your well-being, but only because then they can get more productivity out of you.
I didn't know if others had thoughts.
Yeah.
Good question. Elena has her hand up. Is
Yeah.
that related to this also?
Yeah, I think that every company is abuser. It's how you can deal with that. This is what matters.
Hmm.
Every single company is abuser. It's going to abuse you. It's going to hurt your well-being, of course. But what matters is your reaction, how you react. If you react or how you deal with that. Because only if you're going to find this something that you love, this is not going to be abused anymore.
It's a beautiful point. And like I remember going to my first Agile conference. I think it was in Minneapolis in like 2015. Sasha, were you there? Because oh no, okay, Matt. There was a bunch of people. Michael was there. That was the whole thing. We met up in Austin, I guess. That was good.
And we all met in Austin for the
Yeah, yeah.
first.
But like I remember going to that and like being with people who were not abusers, right? These were people that I felt, at least the group, like they cared about people and that was like, oh, I found my tribe. Like these are the people I want to be with, the people who understand that human potential is not just how can I get the most out of that person? It's like, how can I create the space so that person can grow and then they can, of their own accord, create the greatest things possible. So that I know that is definitely a moment when I was at these Agile conferences where it's like I felt like there was that whole Agile movement that many of us have all been part of was definitely like, hey, let's stop the abuse. No, that was a part that I enjoyed of it very much, that I still enjoy it of it very much.
You know what you've been describing? That feeling when you said when you had that epiphany, that's called being in resonance. In
Yeah.
systems science, it's when a piece is in resonance with the rest of the system, it fits in. It doesn't get rejected by the system. And so when you are let's say being abused or something, which is the normal case, that's the norm. That's where the majority of people are. It's not the exception. That's why we need strong governance rules. You're not in resonance, that means you're in constant friction that eats up all your resources. And that's why it's very aligned to what we're showing us today. So resonance is the key word, I'd say.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm also working on my PhD on sound and healing. And so resonance is like a huge part of that piece of the puzzle too. So I think that does play. I'm behind Lena though. She's ahead of me. Good job. I don't know how you do it.
You're just in time.
Yeah,
Ted Wallace.
that's what I tell
We don't
myself.
compare to one another. I paid attention.
I'm inspired by it, so maybe I'll do something in the next couple of months. That'll be good. Well, I appreciate your time. How late do you guys normally go, or do we have more time? Or
Well, it's completely up to the crowd. If you have more questions, folks, you are welcome. Otherwise, if
yeah,
yeah, people started leaving. Otherwise, I'll just use my opportunity to thank Ted again for a very interesting talk. This is not the first time you are presenting in this group, and every time you come, it's always something really, really exciting. So please don't go away for a long time. We would be happy to see you again soon.
yeah,
maybe with something, with another interesting topic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And folks, we need more speakers. So please, if you are inspired, if you have an idea to share, or just a topic you want to bring in and have a conversation with the group members, just let me know, and you are welcome. This recording will be posted at my YouTube channel, A to Z Agility, soon, and I will also share the link to Ted's presentation if he sends it to me. I usually will share the link using the MeetUp message.
Sasha, have you stopped posting it to the Bay ALN website?
Yes, we kind of went our ways. We are still talking with Yelena to be sure that we don't steal speakers from each other.
Okay.
But
Wait, you share them?
I'm sorry?
You guys share them since it's the same
Well,
crowd, so to say?
since it's pretty much overlapping crowds, we usually don't want to have the same speaker in both groups. And we also want to be sure that we don't steal from each other. We already collided once. We learned our lesson. We learned our lesson. So yeah, we are talking, but I'm not posting this to the BLN anymore.
Okay.
Okay, with this said, let me stop recording.